Hello, my name is Craig Rainey, and I've been in the construction industry for more than 40 years. When homeowners tell me the story of their project, oftentimes it sounds like this. It doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, wise guy, eh?
And most builders would say that. Welcome to Remodeling Wisdom. I'm Craig Rainey. Let's get started. The title of this episode is probably going to interest you, but also take you a bit aback. And when I say that your house is going to talk you out of any changes you want to make in it, that sounds unreasonable at first, but I think when I share with you why I'm saying that, you're going to go, that makes sense. I get it. And a lot of my former clients, we had to have this conversation. And a lot of times I spend time cautioning you on what trade you should use. And for instance, like with architects, make sure that you hire your builder before you hire your architect, because you want to make sure that that architect is designing your home, your renovation with your budget in mind, with how much money you want to invest in it. And your interior designer, even in the last episode, we talked a little bit about an interior designer that was just really breaking the bank on this on this particular renovation. And again, I recommend that you have your builder involved in that too, just so he or she can manage that budget for you and help you stay in line. But before we get to the reason that your house can talk you out of any renovation you're going to do, let me ask you first, it depends on your platform, but please hit the like, follow, subscribe, whatever button you have there. Follow, and just that way you'll be able to know when a new episode hits, and hopefully you'll follow us and become part of our listening family. And if you have any comments that you'd like to make, or you have questions, most of the platforms do not have a comment button that gets directly to me. So I would encourage you to email me. And you can get hold of me at craig@craigrainey.com. And that's my email address. It comes to me, and I'm happy to answer that. And as I've said before, a lot of times I'll base an episode on one of those questions and an answer. Now, if you want to cyberstalk me, and I encourage that, you can find out all things Craig Rainey at my home website, which is craigrainey.com. And lastly, thank you for taking a moment to spend some time with me here. I am really heartful and thankful. We are experiencing a large growth in listenership. I look at the telemetry and I see that, and thank you. Thank you very much. You have a lot of choices out there, and there are some very talented, very knowledgeable people that are giving advice and giving you information on the remodeling business. And when you choose me, it means that I'm doing an okay job, and that's important. Anyway, so without further ado, let's get going. To set this up, I'm going to have to tell you just a short story, what happened to one of my clients. So this couple, a very dear couple, and I've gotten to know them, and we're in the pipeline to get their job started. And as with all of my clients, I recommend that they make all their selections on their finishes and their fixtures and everything else, and then we purchase all those things up front before we break ground. And as you can review some of the previous episodes, and you'll see why. But just really briefly, we don't want any slowdowns, because the two things that are most important to you as a renovation client, as someone who's getting your home remodeled, is number one is your money, and number two is your time. The two things that I ask my clients when I'm talking to them is I said, what is your expected budget on this job? What do you expect to invest on it? And as I mentioned, that's a dangerous question to ask for your remodeler to ask you, because many people think, well, if I say $50,000, that proposal is going to come at $49,999.99. And hopefully you're picking your builder based upon other criteria other than the lowest price, because the lowest price will get you in trouble. And we'll talk about that in the next episode. But when we talk about part two, remember the previous episode, if you listen to that, I talked about there's a part two. This is an intermediate step to that. But anyway, the first one is your budget, and the second question I ask is when do you want this project complete? I never ask when you want to start it, because that question really doesn't have a whole lot of meaning. And the reason for it is you say, well, I'm ready to start it whenever you are. Well, if that project goes on for a year or 2 years, and I'm being ridiculous in some cases it's reality. Well, that's not helping you. And in my process, I try to ask questions that manage my clients' expectations and also meet their needs. And so I always ask, so when do you want this project complete? Now, in this case, we are in August, so my client told me, said, well, we would like to have this done before Christmas. And I said, okay, well, that's doable, providing we get all of our finishes and our cabinets and everything ordered now. Because, for instance, cabinets take between 8, 12, 14, 16 weeks. It just depends on where you get them. Your finishes, countertops, that's not a big deal, but you are going to need time to get that template made after the cabinets are installed and have the production process go on for that. Paint, not a problem, but sometimes your tile takes a little bit of time. It could take up to 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe more. It depends on where you get it. Plumbing fixtures, electrical fixtures, your flooring, these kind of things. You need to make sure you have all that there. And that way, the only thing you're waiting on, if you're waiting on anything, is you're waiting on the labor to get that done. And as we go further towards Christmas, actually, traditionally, the building business slows down. So we're actually, my clients and I, we're in the catbird seat. We can get this done, and I feel good about it. So we're working on it. Okay, but going back to this client, one of the things that I found when I first met them is they're very exacting. We all are, but these folks have a tremendous eye for detail. And you see that from the moment I met them. It's like, okay, well, we want this. And in a lot of cases, the wife has a different vision than the husband has. And that's, I laugh because I have a personal relationship with these folks. And so I'm seeing a lot that I'm not sharing with you. And I apologize for that. But just know that they're, as I said, a very dear couple, and they've got very differing visions of where they want this to go. So they went out and they hired an interior designer. And this interior designer, I've met her, which is unusual. A lot of times the client, I never meet that interior designer. They'll hire them, and then the three of them kind of gang up against me. And I say gang up against me because I spend my time saying, okay, well, be careful. This designer, they don't know what your budget is, and they're going to start, throwing stuff at you. And, they're going to have this opulent design that's going to come in, and it's going to break the bank. And we've just got to be careful with it. Or in the case of one of my clients, and I mentioned it before, they got all their finishes from Italy. So we had gold-plated stuff, and we had Italian tile that was coming in. It was taking 3-4 months to get that tile in. And so you've got to be careful, because those two concerns, I should say, the money and the time, those are the biggies. So anyway, I did meet with the client. The client, he and she, and I met with the designer, and we had a really good meeting. And we were at one of the vendors where they sell a lot of the tile and the stonework and that kind of stuff. So we were going through those color palettes. And anyway, so as we went through and we talked about it, I said, hey, these look good. And of course, that's not my forte. I am not I'm not an interior designer. In fact, I have learned to keep my mouth shut during the color selection phase, or the color palette phase, because I invariably I'm wrong. These folks, they have a really keen skill set for this, and it's what they do for a living. So I allow my professional vendors to do their job professionally without me saying, well, I'm going to second guess it, because if I ask my clients not to second guess, why should I? And believe me, they'll ask me, because at this point, my clients and I have a very tractable relationship. We depend on each other. I depend on them for their input. They depend on me, and we're moving forward together in a partnership to try to get their goal and their dream, make it a real thing. Anyway, so I sat there for some of this meeting until I had another meeting that I had to go to, but I sat there and I watched them select the palette, and the designer, she laid out all these, the different, the tile for the backsplash, and what color our countertops are going to be, and the cabinets, and the paint, and the flooring, and so forth, all the way through. And I thought, okay, we've got this under control. 2 days later, I got a call from the client, and they said, Craig, I think we're going to have a delay. And I said, uh-oh, what happened? What's going on? And they said, well, what we did is we got 3 different selections and 3 different options to go with, and we took them home, and we hate all 3. Oh, okay. And I knew what they'd done, but I don't want to spoil it for you. So I said, well, let's get together. I've got a little bit of time this afternoon. Let's get together. Are y'all available? And they said, well, not this afternoon. Let's do it in the morning. So I went out in the morning, and we walked in, and I walked in, and we got together in the kitchen, and I saw that there were cabinet samples sitting on the countertop, of the existing kitchen sitting there, and then I saw flooring samples laying on the floor with their existing flooring. I saw the backsplash laying against their tiles and the little mosaic laying against their backsplash. And I said, okay, I got a pretty, and we talked a little bit, but I said, I think I've got a pretty good idea what's going on here. And I said, how did you feel about the color palette when we were at this material vendor? And they go, oh, we loved it. And I said, so you hated it once you got home, and why is that? They said, well, it doesn't really go with our house. I said, okay. And you're right, it doesn't. And so what I did is I took the easiest thing. I grabbed their cabinet door samples, a full door. And I said, follow me for a second, because they have the same flooring throughout the house. And we have determined that we're going to keep the flooring. It's a stained concrete. We're just going to keep that. Anyway, so I took them into a room where there was, outside of the kitchen is just a big space. I think it's their foyer their foyer where they have the plenty of flooring and good natural light. And so I set that cabinet sample against the floor. I said, what do you think about that cabinet sample now? What do you think about the color? And they go, wow, it's beautiful. We like it. It looks good. I said, okay, all right, let's look at that. And I said, now look, let's get that piece of your backsplash and let's put that right next to it. Okay, we did that. Set it right next to it on the floor. And we took the backsplash down. We put that there. I said, so now that this is together, what do you think about it? And they said, wow, well, we like it. We like it. And I said, this is the thing. Your house is trying to talk you out of any change. So you're invited by this house to come in and bring all of your selections in here, and you're going to lay your backsplash against your current countertop. You're going to put this cabinet sample against your current cabinet colors. You're going to, put different swatches of paint. You're going to paint it on your wall to see how it looks, and none of it's going to work because all these things are going to change, and your house has a certain personality. It has a certain look right now, and it's going to change. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to trust your interior designer. And folks, this is the thing. There are a lot of interior designers that I talk to regularly, and there's some that they really want my business because they know I depend heavily upon my premium vendors, my architects, my interior designers. Those folks, my engineers. They know I really depend on them. In every one of my jobs, I recommend that they hire one of these professionals to help them make those decisions and get to the goal they want. Now, the interior designers that I talk to, especially here in the Austin area, some of them are very eclectic. I'll just use that word because I have seen in some of the magazines where you've got a lime green wall next to orange furniture, and you got purple cabinets, whatever it may be, because a lot of this stuff can seem pretty outlandish. Now, if you've got a client that's what they want, that's fine. I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of shiplap and subway tile, but I've installed miles of it because that's what my clients wanted. But so when you're selecting an interior designer, you need to find somebody that, number one, has a similar vision, or at least they're willing to listen to you and work around where you see it. Now, if it's something where you're the one that wants the orange cabinets or the purple cabinets and the orange tile and the green furniture, or whatever, that they'll go, well, if you're looking at resale at some point, you might want to consider a more marketable color palette. If you're going to just live in the house, well, do what you want to. Make it the Winchester Mystery House if you want to. That's fine. But most of my clients, they live in the house for a number of years, and then they want to have resale, and they don't want to have to go through and repaint the whole house and get their finishes changed out so they can sell it. And of course, I'm not an advocate of beige and tans and everything else. I'm not that. But again, I recommend that you hire an interior designer who has a good reputation. You've seen photos of what they do because each one has a different style. Everyone does what they want, and you say, oh, I like this style. Go with those folks. And the big thing is this: trust them. Don't second guess. This is what they do for a living. Now, as a home builder and a remodeler, every client I have looks upon me as, if this joker can do it, anybody can do it. I get that a lot because the industry is so accessible to homeowners. Home Depot, HGTV, all these things. This information is so readily available, and it makes everything so accessible that the expertise of what I do is oftentimes overlooked or disregarded. And the same thing goes in with interior designers. A lot of people, everybody's got an eye for color. Everybody, has a good taste. You know what they say? Everybody believes they have a sense of humor, and everybody believes they're a great driver. And we also believe that we have a good eye for color. I don't, because I failed enough in it that I don't believe that about myself. And I work within my strengths. And so that's why I surround myself by these successful, uh, skilled, talented people so that they can help me get to that point of success. So anyway, when I mentioned to this couple, I said, look, pick a palette in a neutral location. Pick your color palette. This is one I like. Once you find that, then stick with it. Just have faith in it and let it grow. We'll build it. And it's funny because the smiles come on both their faces, and we have a good relationship. And they said, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. And there's probably 20 years of college in there with all of us, so there's not a dumb person in the room. It's just sometimes we overlook that. We really don't notice it. And, we don't notice it. Oh, yeah, that is the truth. And all of a sudden it's pointed out. That's so obvious. But when I talk about the house is going to try to talk you out of it, because your house, the way you occupy your home, that's a key part of the conversation that I have with my clients. How do you occupy the home? Where do you take your coffee? Where do you eat in front of the TV? Do you have a formal dining room? Do you have a large family that gets together? Where do you gather? Is the outdoor area something that we need to improve because you spend a lot of time there? With 103 to 105 degree heat for about 30 days straight, it's hard to believe that anybody could subsist outside of the walls. But there are times, even in our climate, where people do go outside. So these are the things that you have to consider. And then when you have your interior designer, once you pick that person, like you do your builder, that gut feeling, make sure that this whole thing works for you. And once you have that, then go with them, trust them, because I have so many success stories that I could tell you, to where the people are like, I'm not sure. I just don't know. And, we're just going to have faith in the interior designer. Craig said to do it. We're going to do it. And we built it, and they loved it. And it was a sustainable love. It was something that didn't, the newness didn't wear off, and they go, oh, maybe we should have rethought this. It's something that they were glad they did it. They were so pleased that they made the decision to allow this professional to help them achieve their goals. And there were parts of the design that they had never even imagined. I do architectural design all the time, and I'll change things around. I'll tear that bathroom apart, and the shower will be on the opposite side of the room. Toilets will be moved around and placed in different directions, everything else. And I'm not saying I'm a feng shui guy, but I mean, there's all kinds of things that we do, and they go, we never thought that could be done. So allow yourself to trust those professionals, and understand that although the industry is very accessible and it seems very easy to us, there are a lot of moving parts to and a lot of technically difficult moving parts to a renovation. And the people that have done this and are successful at it, they know this, and they turn those difficulties into opportunities for you. So that's really what I wanted to talk about, and it's something that came up. And as with many of these episodes, I had an experience, and it was a really pleasant one, and I wanted to share it with you because it's something that I've overlooked. I haven't included that particular component of the renovation so far. I haven't been in detail on it, and I've alluded to it, but I just wanted you to know that you're not alone. There are so many clients, so many homeowners that are grappling with this, and they feel like, man, I just can't make this decision. I see so many things I like on Pinterest or in magazines or wherever it may be, and I just love it. But what's going to be right for me? And that's where you're surrounded by those professionals. Pick your builder. That builder, pick them not based upon price, because remember, lowest price is going to kill you. And I've got a little bit of time, and I want to add this. I had somebody actually that from the last one I was talking about lowest price, and I said, so be specific. What is it about low price that's going to get you? Because I buy on Amazon, and typically I get the lowest price. When I was buying toner the other day, I was going to go with HP, their toner, and it was about $140. I got it on Amazon for $80. Why is that a bad thing? It's not a bad thing. And everything is dependent upon industry. But the way that most builders work, I'm off topic here, I'll go back, but the way that most builders work is that once they get a job, they'll take, let's say, 30% down from the client, and that's for mobilization, down payment for materials, whatever it may be, and then they start the job. Now, if you have a builder that you've hired who is getting a lot of work because they're the lowest price, where does that 30% go? Okay, it may or may not go to your job. That's surprising, but it's true. In a lot of cases, it goes to pay bills that they weren't able to pay because they underbid this other job, and they're having trouble with it. They're having trouble keeping it funded. That money may go to other jobs to try to keep them going, and then hopefully the next job they pick up from them, they'll help pay for your job. The reason for it is because they don't have enough money to finish a job and pay the bills and pay the taxes and pay their own bills and pay themselves their salary. So they rob Peter to pay Paul. It is a Ponzi scheme. And in the state of Texas, it's illegal to do that. But it is done every day because, again, there is not a single business degree. I don't know of one business degree in the industry. These are folks that come from 3 different places. Either they're artisans, they're salespeople, or they're entrepreneurs, and any one of those 3 individually is not enough to do this business. So anyway, that's why it's important that you pick your builder based upon a gut feeling. Don't go with the lowest bid. Go with the gut feeling. Get references. Do the things that you do. And be sure to go, as I mentioned last week, through that sales process. Turn that in your favor where you're able to vet those folks. Ask those questions. See how confident they are, because that confidence is going to give you that good feeling. I had a client before that really had I had no credibility with him. And it's interesting. I didn't. I had no credibility with this gentleman. He's an engineer. He's an electrical engineer. And he said, look, I want to just run this job myself. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I said, okay. Now, I would encourage you not to do that. And I gave him some reasons why. And I told him what he could face and what he was looking at, because he was going to allow his trades to manage his job, which is, as we know, that's a violation of cardinal rule number 1. Never let your trades manage your job. And he was going to do this. He goes, so he listened to me enough that he said, okay, I've got some doubts. You've made some good points, and I've got some doubts. So I earned his confidence. I earned his trust. And we were able to move forward, and it was a successful build. And at the end, he goes, I have to admit, I learned a lot about the process. I learned a lot about the industry from you. And we had some tough times, some good times. But he said, I'm glad I made the decision I did. So when you're talking to your interior designer, go with that same open mind. Pick your designer the way you pick your builder. Don't go with the lowest price. I'm not saying you go with the highest price either. But at the same time, it's important that you trust those professionals with your project. I really appreciate you, and I hope that this little shorty was entertaining for you. You got a little information from it. Please follow us, subscribe, hit the like button. Talk to you soon. Bye.